Okay, so today we're going to prepare the window openings for the fitting of the aluminium joinery. There are specific instructions that need to be followed around how to seal the window opening properly before we do the installation of the joinery. So the first thing to do is to get your wrap folded in, as you can see we have done here, and then to use a sealing tape. Today we're going to use the Bulldog Plus sealing tape system from Thermocraft. So as you can see, there are details and instructions on the product itself, and it's important that these are followed and done correctly. So the first thing we need to do is to cut the underlay 45 degrees out of the corners. Like so. And then we wrap it around. Now with wooden framing we'd be using a stapler in fixing it. Because we've got metal framing, we've got a couple of different ways that we're going to try fixing it. Alright, so with a sharp knife we are cutting 45 degrees out of the corner. Or if you like, splitting the corner in two. And that 45 degrees doesn't need to be marked or measured. It's more like guess, you just start and come out of the middle. Okay, so now I'm really wanting to trim this off. So first of all I'm going to show you the glue idea. Once we've got it glued on, we're going to cut this excess paper off. I don't really want to fold it round in case it interferes with my thicknesses and whatever I'm doing on the inside. So just following the instructions, I'm going to apply glue to the framing. And glue to the paper, and then I'm going to leave it a minute for them both to become tacky. So while we do that, we're going to do the other side with the second option, which is the double-sided tape. So what I'm going to do is cut myself a piece of tape, and I'm simply going to put it on the framing, flush with the inside. Then with my knife or my fingernails, I'm going to just, you take that layer away and you can see I've left myself the tape. And I think 3, depends on the size of the window that you've got. So I'm going to put another one here. So then, making sure my paper is nice and tight and we're doing a good job, we bring it round the corner, we stick it on, then with a sharp knife we trim it off. And that's one way of doing it. Now the other way, this has become tacky now. So we bring the paper around. And we've glued it on. Of course, if the glue isn't quite ready for you to do that, there's always the option of using your magnets, as many as you want or have, to help hold it there till the glue goes off. So that's how we're going to put the paper on. Now we're going to finish the top and the bottom. So as part of the same system now, we're going to use the Thermocraft corner moulds. We're going to fix them in here. We'll glue them on and then we'll put the tape on. This is a continuous moulded piece of plastic that completely seals this very corner. You'll see that when we have because of the way we have to cut and fold the paper, we've got this opening here, which of course we're talking about part of a weatherproofing system. So really this will seal that very edge off around the corner, because even when we put a piece of tape in here, folded out, we're going to have to cut it. It leaves a weak point here. So these help us get rid of the weak point, and I'm going to show you another way on the top, and it's all as per the instructions on the wrap, so you don't have to remember how to do it. Read the instructions and have a look. We're now going to measure across here, which is 950 millimeters. We're going to add 400 millimeters to that length, and that will mean that we can come 200 up here, the length across here, and another 200 up here. So that's this plus 2 plus 2, if you like. So I can measure it, or else before I cut it I can just mark it. So it doesn't really matter how you do these kinds of things, how you achieve your outcome, as long as you achieve your outcome. So this is the tape, the sealing tape. So I'm going 200 up, it's going to go in the corner. Okay, when the Bulldog comes off the roll, it's got the foil side and a sticky side, and the sticky side has a release backer on it. So what we're going to do is to make sure, you have to be a little bit careful with this stuff, because when it sticks it really does stick, that the inside of the tape is flush with the inside of the framing. We don't want any to go on the inside. So what I'm going to do is line it up. Now I've got my 200 millimeter point. I'm going to stick it on. Okay, this comes with the Bulldog. Yep. Peel a little bit further back. So you can see what we're doing is making sure that we've got it nice and smooth and well fitted. Then you're going to take, so I'm not taking the entire backing off in one go, because it's just all, it makes it quite sticky. This will be sticking to something here while I'm getting myself in a dreadful mess. So what I'm keeping an eye on is again this inside line, making it flush. Take some more paper back. So I'm cutting the tape back now and folding it, pressing firmly so I get some good adhesion. We've got the bottom complete. Now we're going to do the top. Now, according to the instructions, we want to come 200 down and 200 across, so we don't go all the way like we have at the sill. So I'm going to mark 400 millimeters, cut myself a piece of tape, then I'm going to mark 200 on here, so I know where to start. Just like the bottom, I'm going to make sure that I'm flush with the inside. There we are. Now you'll notice we haven't used the plastic up the top. There's another solution for that. Okay, so now that we've got our corner tape put in without the plastic, you can see that we have a vulnerable area here. So to complete this part of the system, we're going to put a butterfly across the corner. So this is the 75 millimeter tape. We're going to cut a piece that's 100 millimeters long. I'm going to make sure I don't cut that below. And then it's important to do this as carefully as you can. So We're going to put this across the corner at 45 degrees, but we're going to let this very corner here overlap by 3 millimeters. Because again, when we stick this on, so that sort of fixes it, but we still have this vulnerable corner, and that 3 millimeters is really going to work for us in sorting that out. And that's the corner.
There's definitely a little bit of a trick to it, but it's not too bad. I think the trick with all of this is give it a go, but remember that there's no shame in asking for help when you need it. Sometimes it really is a good idea to pull in a professional that knows what they're doing so that you can make sure you get these important parts done right. Especially when it comes to weatherproofing the house, because it's not a small issue.
So let's have a look at what we've got so far. The flashing tape's on, so they've all been installed, and he's put the cavity batten up the side of the windows as well. Now, as we've discussed before, it's actually important, if you're deciding to build to the building regulations, that you build to the system that you're using. Let me show you what I mean. So what we have is our plans and specifications, and when I come to the windows, the architect has detailed for me exactly the type of installation that he's requiring us to use. We also back that up. We're using aluminium joinery by using the Window Association of New Zealand details and instructions of how to install a window. It varies depending on what type of weatherboards, whether you're having a cavity, the type of wind zone. You'll come across questions like, should we have a sill tray or shouldn't we? There are cases when you need them, there are cases when it's preferable not to have them. Let me show you what we're doing. Okay, so we've got our details sorted out, what type we're using. So with this aluminium joinery, we're not using a sill tray, but we are using a sill support bar for every window that's over 600 millimeters wide. So a typical window here, one we've already installed, is more than 600 across here, so we have a sill support bar underneath. The reason for these sill support bars is nowadays, because we've introduced cavity type construction and often double glazing, the weight of the window itself is outside of the framing line, so no longer is this sat inside with the weight bearing on the frame itself. So we put the support bar in because that's actually what's taking the weight of the window and transferring it back to where all the strength is. So what I can do is show you a typical support bar. Plenty of opportunities for fixing into the framing. It fits onto the wall like so. You can see that, like a cavity closer, it has its ventilation slots. They end up underneath here. The ventilation is really important, and that's the reason that we're not using a sill tray in this respect, because the sill trays can actually interfere with the drying out around the window. We say nowadays that there are 4 Ds important to do with preventing leaks and rotting or rusting. That's simply deflection. That's putting your flashings in properly, your scribers on properly, making sure you're deflecting any weather. Drainage, that's the ability of the water, if it should get in, to drain out, drain through. Drying, which is the ability to have your cavity made properly. So we've got the ability for air to come through here, air to move through our cavity, come through here, drying, and then the 4th D is durability, and that's making sure that your framing is the correct sort. In this particular case, of course, we've got steel framing which won't rot. So we're going to put a window in. Now, this window here is less than 600 millimeters across, so we don't need to put our sill support in, but we would if we were doing it on this, when we do it on this wide window, we'll put the sill support in. Now what I'll do is I would fix the sill support bar to exactly the height that when I sit the window on it, it sits correctly in the opening for me. So I'll adjust this height so that I have a nice wee gap underneath the window on top, and when I've set the window here, I'll centralise it in the opening so that I have a wee gap down the sides too. Later when we do the inside, we'll show you how to seal. It's very important to air seal the windows from the inside. Often leaks are caused with what we call pressure differential, and the sealing of the air means that any water that gets into here finds itself in a dead zone and then drops according to gravity. If we let the air seal leak, then often we have a pressure difference between inside and outside, and that can act as a vacuum to suck a leak through. So, sill support bar or not, then generally it's just a matter of lifting the window into the opening and putting some fixings in. On a window this size, we'll come down maybe about 150 millimeters, screw through, that's because we've got metal framing. Same down from the, up from the bottom, about 150 millimeters, screw through. And if we feel the need to, we'll put further fixing through the sides as well. Then, it's good if you've got some help. The window simply goes in the opening and is held there for the chap on the inside to adjust where it goes. Let me take you inside and show you what I mean by that. Okay, so of course all of this is sorted out much earlier when the window is measured, the size of the window to fit into the opening, but also the manufacturer wants to know how wide to make it this way. And that'll depend on the cladding system that you're using, the size of your framing, the distance across here, and what your internal lining is. So the internal lining we're going to be using is around about 10 millimeters. So this being 10, we're bringing the joinery in and making it flush on the inside and putting our fixing in. Now, later on, this is the point where we will put the air seal around. Commonly, we use a perf rod, which is a backing rod if you like, that we will poke into there, maybe 20 millimeters down, and then we will use expanding foam. It's important that you check whether the expanding foam is compatible with your flashing tape system. Some of them may not be. Okay, so that's about it for putting the windows in. Then the next thing is, once the windows are in, we'll be getting onto the weatherboards. So we'll come back to you and show you how we're going to install the weatherboards and how we work out what height on the walls the weatherboard should be.